speeches in the past. There wasn't any fancy gimmicks or structuring. It got down to the brass tacks of what is wrong and what needs to be done. I think that it highlighted a lot of work that the DA has been doing in government, and I'm very proud of that. The digitalization, the digital IDs, the infrastructure stuff, the stuff on agricultural exports, all of those are a reflection of work that we've been doing in government. And I thought it was a solid speech, certainly a lot less flowery, a lot less...
I just built a budgeting app.
What? How?
Base 44. Look, it pulls
We need to now focus like a laser beam on implementing these things and going for growth in a big way.
All right, let's talk about, foot and mouth disease. Do you think that he explored that part and also gave much attention to it?
Yes, and I think we welcome the declaration of the state of disaster. I think that it's important because what it does is help us unlock the resources from other departments that we need, particularly SAPS, SANDF, traffic, to help us with managing animal movement control in the country. And I think those are fundamentally important going forward. So I'm really looking forward to greater cooperation in that regard. And of course, any extra funding that we can have for vaccine purchase and vaccine rollout is going to obviously be very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Wait.
And standing with me now is Mr. Kobane, popularly known as Papa Penny. Thank you very much, Mr. Kobane, for talking to us at Parliament TV. Your reflection on the President's speech, please.
I can say today we were opening the Parliament. The speech is for every year. Nothing happened about the speech. Anyone can speak, can talk the way you want to talk. But we don't see any result after talking. Today, to me, we are here to open the Parliament of 2026. Whatever I was saying there, to me, is a zero. It's a scratch song. The song is not hit. The song, we cannot dance the song. It's what I can say, nothing I can say, because I'm from the villages. Whatever I was saying there is a liar. People are suffering down there. My people are suffering. Talk about Guyana. People are suffering in Guyana. It was disaster there. He only went there one day, but he never go around. He's lying. My people are suffering. He's saying something that is a heaven. He's a lying. Today we open the Parliament of South Africa by coming together, gathering together, but there's nothing new to me.
What is it that you would have loved to hear from the President in order for the state of the nation to make sense to you?
We can comment, we say President was supposed to say this and this, but he's been there. He never talked anything that is good to the people, that tomorrow going to see everything. Last year I've said, let's wait for 3 months. Whatever was delivering there, it's not happened until today. People crying for the water, dying by the water, no jobs. No roads in the villages there, most in the villages, no job there. They must take the factories back to the villages. People stop coming to Johannesburg everywhere. There's nothing, his term is ending. He might not come next year, who knows. But whatever is a dream, he was dreaming today. Every year is a dreamer. Aye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kobane. That was a member of the MK party, Mr. Kobane, popularly known as Papa Penny. We will be crossing in between the reflections here and the studio as such. I'll now send you back to Tsepo in the studio.
Of course, Mr. Eleni, when you look at this reaction, right, and especially looking at you and your expertise in terms of economics as a whole, he talks about factories in the villages, right, and how important it is. And the president also spoke about the importance of inclusivity, economic growth inclusivity. Sure. Do you think that it's more of a speech and there's nothing tangible, no outcomes from it, even from the previous SONAs?
So I think what the point is that growth must happen locally, and we need to look at, and reflect on those municipalities that lack the industry to support, the growth and the job creation. So the issue about beneficiation, mining takes place in various towns across the country. It takes place, where there are trucks, that come and haul whatever minerals to go into a central place for processing. So I think that the point about factories and beneficiation and manufacturing is to start to look at the nodes where mining is happening and to start supporting and building those nodes to the point where whatever minerals that live there, it's not just rocks, it's not just, heavy earth material that comes from the earth, but it's at least, beneficiated locally. And I think that's how you start to win at least the battle against lack of growth and lack of jobs and so on. So factories in the villages would be something that would definitely support a lot of employment. Yes. We see a lot of migration into the city.
Differently, ATM.
If ebefikile athi mna ndingumnumzana uRamaphosa kudala ndiniphoxa ndibeka phansi intambo bendizophakama ndimqhwabele izandla ndithi usebenzile.
Nkosi kakhulu Mr. Zungula.
Siyabulela.
Well, viewers, that was Mr. Vuyo Zungula of the African Transformation Movement. Ethetha nathi ngendlela ayive ngayo intetha kaMongameli yanamhlanje. As I had promised, we are walking around here trying to find more members to speak to, but in the meantime, let's go back to the studio.
And we continue with commentary and reactions from the 2026 State of the Nation address, which was just delivered by President Cyril Ramaphosa. And now Mr. Holeni is speaking on prioritizing the financing of improvement of health infrastructure. Why are we here? The infrastructure has been dilapidating for so many years while we're watching. Now we are here and we're saying that now we need to prioritize this and finance it. Why should we believe this? That while it happened in front of us?
And I think that is a chronic thing about, how budgeting and how responsive we are as a government. It's not only health infrastructure. I think, for us to wait for infrastructure to crumble and we start putting up plans, it is even more expensive to be able to refurbish that infrastructure. So the issue is that there are guidelines that have been put forward by National Treasury that repairs and maintenance, in terms of the budget. When you build new infrastructure, there must be a repairs and maintenance budget that is set aside, that is adhered to. And I think there ought to be enforcement around that expenditure. Too often that expenditure goes into different areas which perhaps are not going back to reinvesting in the repairs and maintenance. And that's something that must be now going forward. Oversight must be done, as well as ensuring that it's done. So this is one thing about government. I think in terms of it's in its planning capability. You plan for new infrastructure, you must already be planning for all the refurbishment going forward, and be setting aside enough money to be able to support the assets, so that you at least elongate the time that they can be utilized, and you keep them in a good state for much longer, so that they are more usable. That is, I think, something that must be corrected from an administration point of view across national to provincial as well as municipal. It's wonderful to cut ribbons, but after the ribbons have been cut, there needs to be a plan that at least has preventative maintenance going forward in terms of without having to come back and spend a lot more money in trying to refurbish those properties or assets.
Okay, and we're going back to Thembinkosi. I think he's got somebody there to give us some reaction.
I am now standing with the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Les Governor. Mr. Governor, thank you very much for talking to us at Parliament TV. Your reflection on the President's speech, please.
I think it was a very well-rounded speech in that the President covered all the critical aspects, the crucial aspects that people of the country wanted to hear him say, especially on the issue of crime. It was wonderful to hear him say that he's going to deploy the army to assist in those critical spots where crime levels are so high, and that is something that people wanted to hear. Also on the issue of agriculture, he has placed a strong emphasis on the issue of food security, to have more extension officers go out there and boost the agricultural sector, which he mentioned worked very well in another country. So that was something that I found to be very, very important. The issue of crime and then job creation, of course, he really touched on the issue of job creation and how he's going to do it. It wasn't just saying, I want to increase the number of jobs, but he actually spoke about how he's going to do it. And the issue of critical minerals. The beneficiation that will arise out of it, where he wants to ensure that the minerals are processed in our country and not exported as raw materials. So those are the things that will create jobs and give hope to the youth. And the issue of education, he said that we need trained, well-educated young people to be able to drive our economy, and that was something that was wonderful to hear.
Deputy Chairperson, thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Take care. Have a good evening. Thank you.
That was the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Les Governor, and I'm now joined by the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Ms. Nongceba Mhlauli. Ms. Mhlauli, thank you very much for taking this interview with Parliament TV. Can we get your reflection on the President's speech, please?
So I think the President's speech was very powerful. He was able to give an account of the work that would have happened since the last SONA, which was 2025. But most importantly, he gave an account of the strides we've made in terms of building the economy. The fact that the rand is now at its strongest it's been in many years. The economy is growing, even though it's at a marginal, but the outlook just show that we would, be growing at least 2% by next year. Unemployment is coming down, there's job growth, and really you can see that there is, investment in the economy. We spoke about the fact that for the first time in so many years, we're actually now even seeing the fact that we actually now have reserves, something that we haven't had in a very long time. So, but beyond that, he was able to then speak about the plans that we have to fight crime, which is a major issue that affects our communities. He made the announcement around the deployment of the SANDF to deal with the issue of zamazamas that are ravishing our communities, they deal with the issue of gang violence as well. And of course, noting the ongoing work with the various commissions that are there, spoke about very importantly, the fact that we are working towards, within this financial year as well, ensuring that we have additional police, additions to the police force to deal with the issue of boots on the ground. So you can see that there really is a strategy to ensure that we fight crime. The President also spoke at length about what our response is to the plight of youth in the country, spoke about the expansion of the higher education sector, the fact that we have to build, new institutions of higher learning, not just universities, but our TVET colleges, our community colleges as well, the expansion of the Presidential Youth Employment Intervention as well, to ensure that young people are given the necessary skills. So it really was a well-rounded, response to, firstly, the good that has been done, but also most importantly, where there are still challenges, what are we doing in that regard? Spoke about the water issue that we've seen is quite topical right now, in ensuring that, there is a crisis committee that has been set up that he himself is going to chair. Spoke about the foot and mouth disease, that is affecting farmers, and the fact that there will now be a task team that is going to directly respond to him as well. So you can see that it really has been an attempt to say that we understand the magnitude of the issue that are facing South Africans, and this is what we are going to respond to them.
Ms. Mhlauli, thank you very much for that extensive reflection.
Thank you so much.
Well, that was the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Ms. Nongceba Mhlauli. Hi, ma'am, would you like to talk to us at Parliament TV? If you can introduce yourself and then give us your reflection on the President's address.
On the President's address, I'm Leletu, Princess Leletu Mgocho. I think I just noted what the Minister of Land and Rural Development just said. He said it was a well-spoken speech, but now we're waiting on implementations. And people like us, who are very big in the legal field, who are in the legal field, we look at compliance. We want him to account. But it's always to encourage that people must have faith in our president, in our country, and at all times defend the sovereignty of our country. You know, the address was beautiful. We are the president's subjects. We are his nation. We look forward to better. Thank you.
Princess Leletu, thank you very much for talking to us at Parliament TV. And that was Princess Leletu, also a member of the public, just sharing her views on the President's State of the Nation address. As of now, we're just crossing back to the studio. Tsepo?
Thank you, Temi. Thank you, Temi Nkosi. Mr. Holeni, I don't know how I feel about these reactions. I mean, as always, you have members that feel that it's the most perfect piece of speech that they've ever heard, right? It's marching orders, like Honorable Nyonso said. And you have other members that feel that this shouldn't be this is my commitment to do such and such. However, it should be a progress report of this is what I had committed the last time and this is what I've achieved. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I think the issue around, you know, what the president has had to say is said a mouthful. I think we must acknowledge that. But a mouthful in terms of, you know, the previous, you know, things that he promised. But I think there's a lot more things that is promising this time, or things that, you know, is looking forward to doing, which, you know, everything wonderful about it. But, you know, you want to almost, you know, go back to last year's SONA and tick every point, you know, that was put forward. If I go back, in all fairness, you know, the issue of the high-speed rail, I think, you know, we've heard it. You know, where are we? Is there a feasibility study? And I think that's the kind of report back that, you know, the president at least ought to be giving to say, on that matter of the high-speed rail, which is a game changer. Wonderful. I mean, China, Europe, the US, and so on have changed their economies, you know, through high-speed, you know, rails and cut, you know, the time of travel. But where are we? Is there a feasibility study? Is it going to be between Johannesburg and Limpopo, or up to where? Or is it, you know, now going to Durban, you know, and so on, so that, you know, we start to understand the insights of what, you know, is actually going on. Because the critical issue of what the public and some of the members were saying is, if it's not implemented and it remains on paper, I guess, you know, it does not serve, you know, the citizens, you know, in that way. And the other point, you know, to put forward, which I'll emphasize as well, is that if it's not in the budget, it's not going to happen. So let's also look at, you know, those two together. The fact that there's a previous, you know, SONA and previous other SONAs, but last year's one versus today, and what the budget, you know, also espouses, you know, from there on. But I think we must also look at, you know, what good things are happening as well. Balance that with the digitization, I think, for us, of, you know, the whole, you know, passports, you know, the IDs, the visas and so on. It's a critical part of also enabling the economy to open up, you know, from to the outside, but also to domestically, for us to be able to have, you know, the right kind of documentation. Of course, you know, the issue we must also look at is there's also red tape in terms of, you know, small businesses. Small businesses are still, you know, burdened with a lot of red tape to be able to operate. So perhaps, you know, the digitization, if it can also support the ease of, you know, supporting small businesses to be able to function. The other part, you know, is around immigrants who are working, who must be at least, you know, documented. Verified. Let's digitize that process as well, so that we know that, you know, X, you know, restaurant at the waterfront has so many employees, so many are South Africans, so many are foreign nationals, and this is the status of, you know, so then you have a lawful, you know, country going forward.
And on that note, Thembi Nkosi has more reactions for us from the State of the Nation Address 2026.
Thank you, colleagues in the studio. I am now standing with Dr. Mahlatsi, the leader of the United African Transformation. Dr. Mahlatsi, the president has spoken. Your reflections, please.
You know, we know what this country needs. This country needs honesty, courage, and discipline. And if you can apply those three, you will understand we don't have a president. The president from the past 7 years, from 2018, comes and makes promises. He makes promises, but he never revisits them for implementation. Now, I thought today he will reflect and say, this is when we started as GNU, this is the promises, these were objectives that we set, and this is what we have achieved. The president cannot even address the issue of unemployment and poverty, which is the main thing now. As I'm speaking to you, Africa, there are children who are going to bed with the empty stomach. There are parents who are going to bed with empty stomach, hiding from their children that they don't have anything. Now, why can't we develop a country whereby the government is in charge? South Africa has never had problem of producing food. But the food that we produce, we're exporting it for profit. And go and look at the field of exporting. It's only white people. I've made an example in the separation of both the land reform and agriculture departments that emerging farmers were left with the Department of Land. And then this department that is supposed to be supporting them, the corporate enterprise development, they took it to agriculture. We tried to stop them, but they refused. 12 months now, those people have not performed their duties. 550 million is still there. It's not yet been used. Now, in 2025 has been the year where emerging farmers struggled, you know. Now, we are struggling to produce food for our people in terms of food security. We are struggling to produce work. Now, there's the issue also of criminal justice system. The criminal justice system is bleeding. It's bleeding. All phases, from law enforcement to judiciary to correctional services, is bleeding. The NPA is collaborating with criminals. The NPA is collaborating with politicians. They are collaborating with elite business people who are influencing them to target spiritual leaders and other people who don't ascribe to their beliefs or ideology. Now, there's no one in charge. Basically, there's no one in charge. We have a president that made promises, but you look at the first expression of those who are supposed to implement, we are the ministers, the custodian of our basic needs. They're watching him because they know it is not going to happen. There's no courage. Now they're talking about the issue of water and electricity. We know that in the rural areas, they don't give us those things. We don't have. Our people don't have water in the rural areas. But now, Midrand and Centurion has suffered the same thing now. Now the country is shaky. That's a clear indication now the neoliberal policies now are getting in. In the same way they stole electricity, came back with the service providers. That is how they want to steal our water and come with the service providers. Privatization of water and electricity. Kanimambo.
What do you make of the president communicate to deploy soldiers in the crime-ridden areas?
I want to speak specifically about the Rustenburg one because I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. I was there in Rustenburg. People were crying. People have been removed from their residence. People are sleeping in churches. People are on the street. South Africa cannot be bullied by foreign nationals who are illegal. They cannot be bullied by criminals. That cannot happen because the police have failed. I support this, that he must send the army there. But those armies, they must have an objectives. And when they come back, they must be able to present the report that this is why we went there and this is what we have achieved. Because we are living in a country where there's no accountability.
Dr. Mahlatsi, thank you very much for talking to us at Parliament TV.
Thank you, Africa. Kanimambo.
Kanimambo. That was Dr. Mahlatsi. He is the leader of the United African Transformation. Now we'll see if we can get a word from the honorable member. Honorable member, you can just introduce yourself, and then you give us your reflection from the president's speech.
Thank you very much. It's Visvan Reddy. I'm from the official opposition in Parliament, the Mkhonto Wesizwe Party. Well, this is another disappointment, but what you're going to find happening tonight, and I think this is something that we all need to be aware of, is that all the GNU parties are going to become Mbongis tonight. They're all going to be praising this president and saying what a beautiful speech he delivered. The fact of the matter is that they're only doing that because they're singing for their supper. It's because of the GNU arrangement that they are enjoying all these beautiful cars that you see here, blue light brigades, the extra perks that come with the salaries and all of that. But the reality is, if you listen to South Africans who are listening to this today, they will tell you, firstly, 7 million rand spent on a wasted exercise like this, when he could have delivered a similar kind of an address like he did during the COVID over the air, so everyone can listen to if they want to. But we are forced to come here and listen to this speech at a cost of 7 million rands. Secondly, the issue of the army that he wants to now bring into the police. It should have been done a long time ago. If you follow the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee, you will see that corruption is at its worst at the highest levels. We have not yet touched about corruption at the lower levels. And now you want to bring the army in to mix up with this corruption. You're now going to have an even bigger corrupt law enforcement agency. The next thing is that all he's done is he's lied again. He's promised jobs before. He's promised task teams before. He's promised a lot of interventions. Nothing has happened. Finally, the issue of water and service delivery. Every South African that's out here today, they will tell you, not only those living in the rural and the poor communities, but those that are in the suburbs, who pay for their services, who keeps the wheels turning, they don't have water today. They're actually going to the street and protesting. What does it tell you? It tells you that his deployees in different spheres of government, whether it's provincial or local, they are failing to deliver services. It's ANC cadre deployment, it's the GNU arrangement. They cannot blame each other. Helen Zille is blaming the ANC, but she is in bed with the same ANC because of positions that they have through government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reddy. Also standing with me is Mr. Ngabayomzi Kwankwa, the Deputy President of the United Democratic Movement. Mr. Kwankwa, thank you very much. Your reflection on the President's speech, please.
Well, to a large extent, we would consider it to have been a brainstorming exercise. I mean, the speech was idea-rich, contained a lot of ideas about what the President would like to do. We're optimistic that some of these things will be implemented. But on the one hand, we're also not entirely optimistic that it's realistic for him to achieve all the plans and the task teams and whatever he wants to implement within this financial year. From a realistic point of view, we should have just focused on 4 or 5 issues. Let's, for example, if you are going to deal with crime and public safety, you do that. The deployment of the army in some very high-risk areas is a great idea, but we need to know where the funding is going to come from. As for the economy, he mentioned a number of infrastructure projects. I mean, it's not realistic to say the government can be able to spend 1 trillion South African rands over 3 years. Where are we going to get it from? I mean, it's nice to say, but I mean, some of the funding obviously will be mobilized via this private-public partnership. I'm sure not most of it will come from government. The SOEs, it's not clear how we are going to turn the SOEs around, but insofar as the economic growth is concerned and sorting out some of the challenges which cause us not to have enough growth, I am not too sure if we've got enough detail. Maybe he's going to leave that for the budget speech. The other area which we feel is important is it doesn't help us to fly around the world signing trade deals when we don't keep our end of the bargain. Wherever we go, when we do official visits to countries, where we got the confidential country report between countries, when you see that the other trade partners will always keep their end of the bargain. They send their goods to South Africa. We sell nothing to them. But what we do is we always celebrate to say we've signed trade deals. And we don't expose South Africans to those markets, including the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Be that as it may, I think it was, in my view, and from where we're sitting, a campaign speech for the local government elections.
Mr. Kwankwa, thank you very much.
Much obliged to you.
Well, Mr. Mngasela, briefly, I've really run out of time, but I want to give you this opportunity. Your reflection on the President's address, please.
Yeah, I think the one thing that the President used the speech for was to say to the people of South Africa, there is no more that he can do as a president. But because on the idea of jobs, it was just a rhetoric. The idea of infrastructure and transportation. The bullet train of 2018, we've heard that story before. But I must say that for many people in this province, and South Africans in general, who are suffering from crime, gangsterism and extortion, he made ACC proud. He made the people of the Western Cape proud, because people have been saying that we need you to deploy the army. And fortunately, the President said, yes, we'll do that. We wrote to the President not once, not twice, but at least 3 times, saying, President, just declare a provincial state of disaster in the Western Cape, because here, gangsters, through extortion, they closed a clinic in Kailicha in town 2. Imagine in a country where there is democratic institutions like the policing, law enforcement agencies, but you allow that in an environment where you can exercise the power of the state and ensure that those who are criminals are held accountable and the law bites. So at least we're happy that he's done that. We can clap hands for him to do that, but he didn't have to wait for this state of the nation to do that. So ezinye nezinye ke ayisaziyekela kubalandeli bakhe. CAC City now we are happy, and for the people of the Western Cape and those areas in this country who cannot live freely in their homes, they cannot walk freely in their streets. Girl children are being raped left, right and center. Women are not free in this country. Criminals are walking freely. Even though we want death penalty for murderers, it has not been delivered yet, but we're moving on.
Mr. Mnasela, thank you very much for talking to us. That was Mr. Masizole Mnasela, the president of the Active Citizens for Change. And that concludes my work here outside the Cape Town City Hall. We've heard a reflection from members of different political parties. Igama lam ndinguThembi Nkosi Ngoma wakuTsolo, and it's back to the studio.
Thank you, Thembi Nkosi. And just Mr. Holeni, lastly, as we wrap up your commentary, just your comments on now the government now is choosing to move away from the housing system where they're building houses for people. Now they're moving towards subsidizing people for buying and assisting them to rent in areas. So what is your comment on that? And
yeah, I think for a while people have also been saying, give us options, much more than just having RDP houses. Give us options to be able to have our own stands and be built. Service the stands. I think that is one of the most important issues. A new one as well is in terms of rentals. We know about the social housing policy as well as the rental method. But we still have to address, the gap, the people who are sort of in the missing gap with regards to not being able to buy houses, because there's something that, at least it does from a dignity point of view for people who can own their own houses. Yes, the renting is okay when you're starting out and you're growing or you're moving towns and so on. But the ownership, because comes in the value of how the property appreciates and how you can gain value from there. I think that's something that we must also look at, because the RDP houses, I think, have reached the end of where the end of an era, because it was there to support a particular era, to support people who were at least deprived. We must also see as well title deeds being handed over to properties where people have stayed in for a very long time, so that they can hold on to those title deeds. That becomes important as well. But I think, moving forward, with regards to how the housing policy must go, it must definitely go the route of allowing people to be able to own their own houses and take, those subsidies, and hopefully be able to have a multiplier effect, because you can only build so much RDP houses in a year, but a multiplier effect is what must at least be encouraged.
And final remarks on what it is that people can expect now that we have local government elections coming up. We're going to see potholes being patched up here and there, but not really something tangible and something that is going to be sustainable throughout. And also from your perspective as an expert, what is it that municipalities should do differently this time with the new cohort that's going to come in?
Absolutely. And I think for what we've said is, and I will continue to echo, the fact that there are basic services. If basic services are delivered, then, there is not much that we can complain about. And water falls in the basic services. Electricity falls in there. A road without potholes falls within that category. The other thing is to have working traffic lights, so that we don't have, some of the members of the public who have now given themselves jobs to become traffic, officers at the risk of, the whole nation. So if the government focuses on ensuring that basic services works, municipalities are able to deliver those services. You have a town that, is at least, functional. You have done already a lot. So some of these things are really not, the miracles that, we think they are. Of course, we need to have now going into the new elections to continue to emphasize the issue of skills. Let skilled people be the ones who are given the portfolios, and the people who are running the portfolios, let them be at least qualified in those areas. It takes, the running of those functions, a lot further, gives a lot of, direction. It allows, for planning and accountability, because, some of those people given some portfolios who have no clue about those portfolios have to listen to the administrative people telling them things, and some of them may not be measuring up to what should be done and so on. So in the elections going forward, we know that there's traditionally people who exit the system. We just hope that we retain the core of the people who are working hard, who are knowledgeable about the space, and can at least, continue to contribute positively to the development of local government. So I think, for this matter, the elections going forward, we believe should be won by those political parties who are fielding very strong candidates, who are going to serve the people, who are going to give direction, and going to hold the administrative wing accountable, and then support in terms of ideas. That's how, at least, with these elections going forward, we hope that things are going to turn, and for the foreseeable future, skills, leadership, strategy, service delivery will be the game that they play.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Moyo. Thank you. And of course, that brings us to the conclusion of the State of the Nation address for 2026. And of course, you can await the joint debates that will be on Tuesday, the 17th of February 2026. That is debate day 1. And on Wednesday, the 18th of February 2026, that is debate 2. Those 2 days of debate will be followed by the President's reply to the debate. That is on Thursday, the 19th of February 2026.
And of course, they will be taking place at the new Mr. Dome, which has recently just been handed over to Parliament to be the official Parliament precinct for these sittings and forthcoming sittings as well for the year.
Of course. And that brings us to the end of this broadcast. You have been at the front row seat of the SONA here that has happened throughout the day. Of course, we've brought you conversations from presiding officers and key important people that play a role within the State of the Nation address. But not only that, they play a role in shaping the legislature and in shaping the laws that govern you. From myself and the rest of the team, Libito Laka Mori.
And I am Masiho Dluna.
Have a good night.
Good night.